Hi, welcome back, my dear students. So in this lecture, we're going to learn about JavaScript objects, all right? Basically, an object is just another type of data type in JavaScript. For example, you know how to define a variable in JavaScript, right? Well, in variables, we can include a lot of different things, right? We can have strings, we can have numbers, we can have booleans, we can have other variables, right? We also have, we can convert that variable into a list or an array, right? And have values in there separated by commas inside an array, right? We can have other variables, strings, booleans, numbers, and so on, right? Well, an object is very similar to that, but more flexible because in objects, you can include all that type of data and even more. You can include more objects, you can include array, you can include any type of functionality, any type of things inside an object. It's more flexible than a variable, all right? So in an object, you start writing an object like this. You first get your curly bracket, all right? Then you write the name of that property. Would be the property. Remember, the objects when we finish putting everything together. So this is just the name of that property. Now we separate the name and the value with a colon, all right? And then we write the value. So there you have it. This would be an object if I can close it, but now we need the other curly bracket and a semicolon to close it. But I'm not finished with my object. I can include whatever I want inside my object. So this object here is going to have the name, as you can see right there, all right, divided. And always when you separate the property and the value, you need to put a colon there. Now in this case, we have a string called Edwin as the value of the property name, all right? Then I'm going to separate it by a comma for the second property. Now we're going to have another property called last name. Then we use the colon to separate the value, and then we give it a string, all right? Then we use a curly bracket to close it and a semicolon, because the semicolon means, all right, let's go to the next command, right? We got to go write some more code. So here's a semicolon JavaScript. All right, so this would be an object. But now, in order for me to use all the data inside here, all right, in order for me to use my object, I need to give it a name. And the way we do that in JavaScript is by actually declaring, giving all this data to a variable like this. So we define the variable, all right? We put our keyword var because that's how we do it in JavaScript, and we give it a name, data. So now I can use this object called data, all right? And we can pull information from here. We can pull the property values out. And if we had arrays, we pull the arrays out. If we have, and we can manipulate that data however we want. But we refer to that object by its name now that we just gave it. We gave it a name called data. All right, let's actually jump to the code and let's inspect this a little more. All right, so let's check how we can create a object and use the information inside of it. All right, so let's open our brackets or whatever editor you're using. All right, I'm gonna create a file here. I'm gonna name it object basics. All right, like this. Let's actually give it a underscore and let's just say JS. Make sure that you in your index you actually refer to that. All right, object basics. There we go, and save it. All right. All right. So we said that we write a variable, we create an object with the curly brackets, but let's actually do everything from scratch, right? Let's just give it a name right away. So I'm going to call this process. All right, that's going to be my object name. All right, there we go. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it down. I'm not going to put the semicolon here because I'm not going to put anything after it. But if I was to do something else, I would put my semicolon. All right. All right. So I'm going to give my object a property. I'm going to give it process. This would be let's just keep it the same way that we had it before, name, and I'm just gonna say Edwin. Let's just call it full name just to make things a little bit different. Full name. There we go. All right. And remember when I told you that Objects were very flexible. It was a different data type in JavaScript, right? Different than variables, more flexible. Let me show you why. Because I can do something like this. Display this, display name, and I can include a whole function in here. Look at that. A whole function as a property. So we can refer to this function as a property. I'll show you right now how to do that. So what I'm going to do is this function is just going to display the name, our property. So what I can do here to refer to this property inside the object, super simple. You don't write full name like this. You don't do that. Look, my editor is not even finding it. But if I do this dot full, look, it already found it, because you don't refer to this, to that property inside the object by its name like that. You need to use the word this. This means this object. All right. I'll show you a little bit about this later on, but this and then full name. All right. That's it. So now the way that we invoke this, super simple. We come right below here and we say process, oops, dot, and then we say display, and we give it a parenthesis, because it is a function. It's an anonymous function right here, all right, but we are giving it a property. We are actually giving this property a value of a function, right? So that's it. That's all you do there. And let's actually look at this in the browser real quick. And let's oops, sorry about that, guys. All right, let's go to inspect element real quick, and console, and as you can see, it says Edwin DS. Super simple. All right, so as you can see here, this is a very simple object, but objects can get very complicated, very complex, because you can put other objects inside here. All right, you can create a comma here, and you can put other objects. You can give it let's say object. Don't use names like this. Don't use generic names, because some of these names are going to be reserved in the language. All right, so use something different. All right, object, I don't know, whatever, and then we can have other objects in here. All right, and these objects can have different keys in here as well, whatever, you know. You can even have an array of objects, all right, like this, and then you can have I don't know, cars here, and house, whatever, or any type of data. All right, so they can get very complex, and accessing them and manipulating data can get very complex, but the fundamentals is super simple, guys. All right, you have a curly brackets with the property name separating the value with a colon, as simple as that, and then you assign all that to a variable, and then you use that notation here to use the properties or functions inside, all right, this object. So now we're using the function here, but look at this, we can also use the property name. We can do something with it. I'm gonna comment this out, and I can do this, console.log, and I can say, I can use a name, process dot full name, save it, semicolon there, don't forget that. Come back here, let's refresh it, same thing. If I change this though, however, I can get severe instructor, save, refresh, and as you can see there, all right, so you access these properties and functions with a dot notation outside the object. Inside the object, you make sure you use the dot notation, but you use the keyword this, that it refers to this object. All right, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next lecture.